Christian Horner is convinced that Mercedes will be bouncing back from their early season failures this season, but how likely is it? With the help of a secret strategy, the Silver Arrows might still have an ace up their sleeve. What is the strategy? And what is the last hope for Mercedes? Stay tuned to find out. First, the big 2022 shakeup. Formula One fans are known to be nerds. The sport is not about physical power or strength. Instead, most of the competition is fought out between engineers and mechanics designing each car. And the key to this battle is the regulations that determine what teams can and can't do. Gone are the days when you could design a car that looked like a space vehicle with 6 wheels, or when you could strap a fan on the back of the car to increase downforce like the Bahrain BT46B. Still, regulations change in F1 every year, and there is still a lot of innovation. And this year, it's hard to overstate just how drastic the regulation changes this year have been. The racing director of Ferrari has said the overhaul has been the most radical change in the last 40 years. The new regulations were designed to allow closer and more exciting racing. For years, Formula One has been frustrated with how dirty air has limited overtaking. Dirty air is the air that is passed through from one car to the car behind. Because F1 cars are so complicated and intricate, the air shooting out the back creates vortexes and patterns, which makes it difficult to control a car that is close behind. But the rule changes have had some casualties. Mercedes are the first to take a hit, and they've had a hard time adapting their engine. Red Bull's Helmut Marko is sure that the fuel change from 5% to 10% synthetic fuel is at the root of Mercedes' problems. Next, Mercedes were too comfortable. After the last rule changes in 2014, Mercedes didn't take long to make themselves at home. They won 16 of the 20 races that season and stamped their authority on the new era with style. Their two drivers, Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg, traded wins, and it took until the 9th race for someone else to win one. The year marked the start of new engine formulas, meaning that teams had to use 1.6-liter V6 engines, and for the first time, they would be called power units instead. It was divided into 6 different sections, including components that recharged energy through the heat of the car. This was a big moment in Formula One and a significant step towards innovating electric-powered vehicles. Mercedes approached the problem using 2 different approaches. On the one hand, they wanted to maximize performance, but on the other hand, they wanted to maximize reliability. They ended up striking a balance between the two, and the results speak for themselves. 8 Constructors' Championships and 7 Drivers' Championships spanning the most dominant period by a single team in Formula One history. In other words, they got it right. They got it so right, they became the benchmark for performance, and other engine manufacturers looked to Mercedes for guidance. But then their luck ran out. The Silver Arrows got a little too comfortable winning, and they took their foot off the gas. The 2022 regulations didn't look like too much of a threat to Mercedes because they are known to adapt to new regulations quickly, and it seemed like there was not too much difference. But the new E10 fuel combined with an entirely new chassis design spelled trouble for the world champions. Now, a new era of midfield. The opening races have been a total disaster for Mercedes. Hamilton miraculously ended up on the podium in Bahrain, but in Saudi Arabia, he finished way down in 10th place. The lackluster performances have meant that the 2 Mercedes drivers are starting to get used to a new reality. At best, they'll be fighting for 5th and 6th place and waiting for opportunities to steal a podium. But this is light years away from where they were last year. Lewis Hamilton is a 7-time world champion and went into the season expecting to fight for the title. But as those hopes slip further and further away, he might be considering early retirement. For his teammate, George Russell, it's a case of bad timing. The young British driver has widely been considered one of the most talented in the paddock. He had been patiently waiting for the call-up to Mercedes while he killed time driving for Williams. But once he finally got the chance, the rug has been pulled out from underneath him. The W13 is by far the worst car Mercedes has produced in the last 8 years, and he might be rethinking his career choices. At the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix, Kevin Magnussen and Lewis Hamilton battled it out for a few laps to treat the audience to some skillful wheel-to-wheel racing. But what may have been the high point of Magnussen's career was probably the low point of Hamilton's. Last year, Lewis could never have imagined that he would be fighting for 5th place, with a Haas just 2 races into the 2022 season. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. What's the one last hope for Mercedes? And how could a major upgrade change their fortunes? Don't go anywhere, because all that is coming right up. Next, Mercedes' strategy. The first part of Mercedes' strategy was to completely revolutionize design of their car. After the first session of preseason testing in Barcelona, the Mercedes W13 looked pretty similar to the other cars. But by the second outing in Bahrain, there was a radical new design in the garage. What they had done was slim the side pods right down. The FIA's regulations call for side protection to be installed for the safety of the car, but Mercedes have managed to find a loophole. While most teams have gone with a conventional approach, Mercedes have almost entirely eliminated the side pods and made their car one of the narrowest on the grid. It was meant to improve aerodynamics, but preseason testing was still a disappointment showing for the team. After the first 2 races, they needed to find a stage 2 for the plan. It was widely reported that Mercedes was expecting to take a major upgrade to Melbourne for the Australian Grand Prix. Apparently, the rear wing would be slimmed down to generate less downforce at the back of the car, but this would help to increase their speed. Just before the cars were assembled in the pit garages, though, they announced that they didn't have any upgrades ready for Australia, and Toto Wolff named Mercedes fans that there was no magic fix for the car's problems. But we'll all have to wait until the next upgrade to see if Mercedes can stand a chance this season. But in Brazil last year, a new spicy engine was fitted to his car, and Hamilton stormed through the field from last place to win the race. Toto Wolff admitted that it was the best car they had all year. So it is possible, but those who have abandoned hope for Mercedes team might be in for a surprise as the season moves along. Prominent people in the industry, including Christian Horner and Helmut Marko, all believe that Mercedes will catch up up to the top 2, and that's just a matter of time. Marko said that during the turbo hybrid era from 2014 to 2021, the Mercedes engine advantage was so big that they could afford to not develop their chassis design as much. But now that the playing field is more level, he thinks that Mercedes are learning what it's like to work for it. He said that there are some talented chassis specialists at Mercedes, and that he is convinced that they'll be back if they get their porpoising under control. Porpoising is an issue that almost all the teams have been facing this year. It's where air is trapped underneath the car, and once it escapes, it causes the whole vehicle to bounce up and down. This effort holds back performance because it limits the top speed of the car. But if porpoising is the biggest problem they have, then this will be good news for Mercedes. The worst case scenario is that there is a fundamental problem with the power of the engine. This is much more difficult to fix, and there is an engine freeze coming in this year that limits the development on engines to make the sport more competitive. So it's not just the engine that's the problem. There is still some hope, but Mercedes needs to sort out the porpoising as quickly as possible. Otherwise, it'll be more than just their car that's shaky, but their future in the sport too. Do you think Mercedes could make a comeback this season, or is it the end of the road for the most dominant team in modern Formula 1? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.